MetaApply has test prep that helps students to actually understand the structure and how to score their desired band in any of the English requirement tests.
We begin by evaluating the entry level of the student, assess his current abilities
Yeah.
and proficiency in the English language. We personalize the study plan for them, and then we move on to working with them individually to be able to reach their desired score.
So we have so many test preps, like we have IELTS, we have TOEFL, PT and Duolingo. So what are actually the differences between these tests?
So the first one is assuming that by watching movies you improve your listening skills.
Yeah.
The second most important mistake that they make is not reading instructions properly on the exam. We probably in a year we have more than 13 lakh students who take the IELTS.
Oh.
In a year.
Okay.
And it's increasing almost by 15 to 20% every year. If you do not communicate in English, start doing that. Listen effectively.
Welcome to another episode of MetaApply's ABC podcast, Abroad and Beyond Campus. Today we are going to talk about English requirement tests like IELTS, TOEFL, PTE and Duolingo. These tests are required by top international universities to assess the English skills of students who want to study abroad. In this podcast, you'll find first test prep, which is an English requirement test preparation by MetaApply. Then we are going to talk about different English requirement tests and what are the differences between them. Then we're going to take each section, listening, speaking, writing, reading, and we're going to tell you the top tips and tricks to actually crack them and what are the most common mistakes students make while preparing for each segment. After this, we'll have some very fun Mythbuster segment in which we are going to debunk some of the most common myths about all of these tests. And then we're going to hear some testimonies from Sunithi, who talks about stories of students who actually were able to achieve their required band score. So to discuss about all these topics, we have Sunithi, who has over 27 years of experience in helping hundreds of students accomplish their desired score in English requirement tests like IELTS, PT, TOEFL and Duolingo.
So thank you, Mahima. And it's as an academician, I think it gives me a lot of pleasure in connecting with you and discussing the various challenges that students would face while taking up these English proficiency tests. And thank you for this opportunity as well.
Yeah, thank you. So, first of all, I would like to talk about that MetaApply has test prep that helps students to actually understand the structure and how to score their desired band in any of the English requirement tests. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
So, currently, the focus which we are working on is on the English proficiency tests, primarily on the IELTS, because that's one of the preferred tests across destinations and across universities as well.
Yeah.
So, that is our core focus as of now, while we delve into the other English proficiency tests too.
Okay.
And it's just not about getting a top score. It's also about primarily working with your larger market where your students would probably fall anywhere between a band score of a 5 and a 7.
Yeah.
And they definitely need to meet their targeted goals to reach their destination abroad.
Yes.
So that's what we are currently working on primarily.
So, Sunidhi, how does test prep help students and their journey and simplify it when they actually try to go for English test preps?
Okay, so before I address your primary question, so there are different English proficiency tests.
Yes.
But they all test your basic English communication skills. Just that the test structures and the format is different.
Yeah.
We begin by evaluating the entry level of the student, assess his current abilities and proficiency in the English language.
Yeah.
We personalize the study plan for them, and then we move on to working with them individually to be able to reach their desired score.
Okay.
So that's what we primarily work with our students on.
And I think that's very good because if we have one stagnant test for everybody, then we will not be able to concentrate on what weaknesses each student might have. Yeah.
We do have a general structure in terms of our deliverables.
Yeah.
But we have to tweak around what we are doing for each individual student to meet the goal. So that's what we primarily focus on.
Got it, got it. So we have so many test preps, like we have IELTS, we have TOEFL, PT, and Duolingo. So what are actually the differences between these tests? And if a student wants to decide that whether they should go for IELTS or PT, what are the deciding factors for them?
Okay, so some of the familiar tests that you spoke about is the IELTS, TOEFL, and the PTE.
Yeah.
But some of the tests not known. You have specific English proficiency tests to be evaluated, which are used to evaluate teachers.
Yeah.
Which are used to evaluate nursing professionals. So there are a lot of tests. You have more than 10 to 15 tests which are certified by governing bodies like Cambridge and British Council. But we probably just get to know these few tests like IELTS, TOEFL, PT, and Duolingo. The deciding factor primarily is recognition of the tests.
Okay.
Acceptability of the test by the universities. Some of the universities are very specific as to which test you will have to take.
Okay.
And then the student has to decide which test he takes.
Yeah. So it depends on what the requirement from the university is.
Absolutely. There can be a situation where a student may have to take both IELTS and TOEFL if he is applying to these specific universities where it's a mandate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is no technical difference between these tests in level of difficulties?
The structure is different.
Okay.
The scoring pattern may be different. The question types are different. But basically, all these tests just test your English communication skills. The key differentiating factors are only the format and the scoring pattern, and definitely the fee structure.
Yes.
So, for a person coming from a English speaking background, has been communicating regularly in English, either of the tests are going to work fine.
Yeah.
Subject to what is mandated by the universities. So that's something that you really have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But for people who probably are not coming from an English speaking background,
Yeah.
they would have completed their schooling or college from an English medium, but they may not be able to communicate. Then we will have to decide probably which test is better or easier for the candidate. In my opinion, there is nothing that stands easy from either of the test perspectives. So even if you have to compare an IELTS or a TOEFL or a PTE, one is totally completely online.
Yeah.
So unless you are familiar with reading passages online, which is content heavy, probably even an online test would be difficult for you.
Yeah.
So that's how it works on the TOEFL or the PTE. So it completely depends on the ability of the student and the skill on how he assists the test. So there is nothing like one test is easier than the other.
Okay.
Which test you take entirely depends on the university that you're applying to is the first point. And it solely depends on your skill and ability and understanding the structure of the test.
Okay.
Else all the tests are of same difficulty level. I wouldn't say difficulty level.
Yeah.
They're not difficult tests. They are actually tricky tests.
Yeah. So if you know the structure and you know the strategies. So this brings me to my next question. If a person knows how to speak in English at the medium level or at the basic level, do you think that is sufficient enough for the person to actually crack one of these exams, and not just crack them but achieve their desired goal that might be band 7 or band 8?
I wouldn't say it's not possible,
Yeah.
provided the candidate is able to understand the test structure himself,
Yeah.
identify the key strategies or the nuances of the test, he should be able to get his desired band score.
Okay.
But there have been multiple instances where students with very good English proficiency struggle to get a band 7.
Yeah.
Only reason being, they believe that because they are well versed or proficient in English, they can ace the test. And those finer nuances they miss on the day of the exam.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to keep in mind.
Yeah. So coming to the nuances and coming to the structure and understanding that, we'll go with each segment. First, we'll start with the listening one. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is accent, because, of course, Indian accents are also not very easy to understand for foreigners, though we completely understand, and it's something that we always try to pronounce all of our letters, but that is not the case for other accents. So, how important it is to grasp your understanding of accents?
On the listening section, the students are going to hear different accents for sure.
Yeah.
So that's one thing they'll have to practice as they prepare.
Yeah.
So listening to audios, podcasts, and the content that you listen to is not going to be anything random that's there on the net.
Yeah.
You will have to, it's more academic related content.
Yeah.
And from different countries, which is important that the student has to keep listening effectively.
Yeah.
Because they will be interacting with people from different countries in the foreign land.
Yeah.
So it is important to familiarize themselves with different accents.
So can you talk a little bit about the structure? That first it's monologue, then dialogue, and what will be the next one?
So the listening is for 30 minutes,
Okay.
but you have 40 questions.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. You have 4 sections, and most importantly, the difficulty level of the sections increase as you move from section 1 to section 4.
Yeah.
That's important.
Okay.
You'll have a mix of monologue and dialogue in a campus environment. You'll also have a monologue and a dialogue in an academic environment.
And by academic environment, you mean in classrooms?
In classroom, you'll have a lecture,
Okay.
which you'll have to listen to, and you'll have 2 students talking about a lecture, which is a dialogue.
Okay.
There can be instances where you'll have more than one person speaking as well.
Okay.
So, when we train, we help them identify which section, what is it that you're going to listen to.
Got it.
So, you align when you're taking the test.
So Sunidhi, what are the most common mistakes that students can do while preparing for a listening segment?
So, the first one is assuming that by watching movies, you improve your listening skills.
Yeah.
The second most important mistake that they make is not reading instructions properly on the exam. The third point is they do not make use of the pause time that they get after every section.
Okay.
The next, last most important thing is they skip the audio trying to look for what the next question would be.
Okay.
And they miss out on the transition words. This is where they majorly make mistakes.
So Sunidhi, my last one would be, what is the best strategy for listening segment that students should definitely have?
Most importantly, practice listening.
Yes.
We are not used to listening to academic content
Yes.
regularly.
Yes.
Practice that. Work on listening to specific audios related which are being tested on the IELTS. Learn how to pace and manage your time. Set your goal, band score, and work towards it.
Yeah.
Apply your strategies the right way.
Got it.
That's the best way to do it.
And not watch movies in the garb of preparing for listening.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay.
I would like to mention very recently, a lot of the universities increased their band score requirement.
Okay.
So probably if universities last year were okay with a 5.5
Yeah.
or a 6, have increased their requirement by a band score of 0.5.
Okay.
So all the more the emphasis on improving your English communication skills for you to be able to sustain in a foreign land.
And that is where such kind of strategies come
Absolutely.
into play.
Yes, yes.
So Sunidhi, the next segment is our speaking segment. One of the most common fear among students is that they will have to talk to foreigners and internationals, and they will actually have to try to understand them now in reality face to face. So what is your opinion about that?
So Mahima, that's a myth.
Okay.
It's not that you'll have to face a foreigner when you're going in for the IELTS speaking.
Okay.
We have certified trained examiners to cater to our Indian students as well and candidates.
Okay.
So you will, in most cases, you will always see a person from an Indian background who comes with years of experience.
Yeah.
And they undergo rigorous training and recertification to be able to work on the standards as required by the IELTS. So that's something that students do not have to worry about at all.
Okay.
Most importantly, the volumes that India caters to,
Yeah.
we probably in a year we have more than 13 lakh students who take the IELTS
Oh.
in a year.
Okay.
And it's increasing almost by 15 to 20% every year.
Okay.
So you will have examiners from India who will be trained and they will be assessing the students. So that's nothing to be worried about at all.
So I think that is actually a sigh of relief for a lot of
Yes,
students that they
yes.
will not have to interact with internationals in speaking test.
But keep in mind that the evaluation is standardized. It's
Yes.
not that it's going to be lenient because you are working with an Indian examiner. No, not at
Yeah.
all. Nothing like that.
Another myth I would say is that students are afraid that if they use their local accent, then they would be penalized for it. So, is it true, and should they improve their accent as well?
So this is called, there are two things to it. One is your accent, the
Yeah.
other is your mother tongue influence.
Hmm.
An MTI, as long as MTI is the mother tongue influence, as long as it doesn't, it's becoming difficult to comprehend,
Yeah.
that's when you get penalized.
Yeah.
But to be aware and be cautious, never try to put up an accent.
Hmm.
Be your normal self as
Yeah.
long as you're able to communicate in simple English that the examiner can comprehend. That's what he's looking at. And an examiner will be able to identify your put up accent very easily
Yeah.
when you're communicating. So we normally tell students, be your simple self.
Yeah.
How you would talk amongst your peers, friends, colleagues,
Yeah.
just remain that way.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, by being yourself, it reminds me that once you're entering the room where the speaking test is going to happen, so does the posture and the confidence, do all those things also come into play for the score?
Yeah. So the student is going in under pressure of time.
Yes.
He has invested money and he has to get his target score. There is a lot of pressure that most of the students have to handle on the test day. But the examiners will definitely make you feel comfortable.
Yes.
They are not there to intimidate you.
Yeah.
They will be trained on these aspects and they understand the psyche of the students or candidates that they would be facing.
Yes.
You have to be confident. We will train you
Yes.
when you attend the test preparation program. So there is nothing to be worried about at all.
Yeah.
Basic body language, and you don't have to be tied up and in formal setup. There's nothing that is that impacts your score. No,
Okay.
you don't have to be worried about that at all. They're very friendly.
Yes.
They will accommodate. They'll make you comfortable.
Okay.
which
So
is
they are
fine.
not scary people who are there to judge
Definitely
your
not.
accent.
Definitely not.
Okay. One of the most important questions for speaking is, I would say, that what is the most important while you're speaking? Is it the accent, like we discussed? Is it the grammar? Or is it the vocabulary that students are using while speaking?
Okay. On the speaking, there are different, on the entire test, IELTS across all sections, grammar, cohesion,
Yeah.
coherence, lexical resource, vocabulary are tested. In terms of vocabulary, how you use different words, placing them in the sentence at the right, based on the context,
Yeah.
is something that you'll have to try to do. If you do not know it, where to use the right words, don't try to do it and make a mess of it. You might as well use simple words as long as you're able to communicate clearly and precisely.
Got it.
That's what we mean.
Yeah.
So trying to use high flown vocabulary and not communicating your thought process clearly will attract penalty on the IELTS.
So, like taking words out of the Oxford Dictionary and just putting them anywhere in the sentence is not
It's
going
not
to work.
mandatory at
Yes.
all. Unless you are used to communicating like that,
Yes.
it's okay.
Yes.
Use of good vocabulary will give you a good score. But using it at the not so appropriate places
Yes.
will impact your score.
Got it. And they will be easily able to judge whether you're using it correctly or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you have made up your response. Your answer has to be fluent.
Yes.
That's more important.
And what about grammar mistakes? Because even if you are at B1 level or even higher level, there are still a lot of grammatical errors that students, even we, make from in day-to-day life. So how vigilant should students be for their grammatical errors?
Don't be too conscious about what you're speaking.
Yeah.
The topics on the speaking are day-to-day activities with your friends, your family,
Yeah.
your colleagues, etc. So don't be too conscious about what you're saying.
Yeah.
As we communicate on a daily basis, we do make a lot of mistakes,
Yes.
which is okay,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Okay.
But unless your grammatical mistakes are really bad, that is when you
need to
it will impact your score.
Okay. What type of questions can students expect typically in a speaking test?
It's actually a simple test, to be honest. So you have 3 sections. The first section is a personal introduction.
Okay.
That's an icebreaker.
Yeah.
So the examiner makes you feel comfortable. what are you doing, where are you from, what are your plans, your family, blah blah. You just that's about a minute or so.
Okay.
So you feel comfortable when you do that.
Okay.
And when you move on to the second section, it's called a cue card section. So you get a card, and then you have a question followed by 3 sub questions, and you get time to prepare.
Okay.
They'll tell you that you get time to prepare. There's a timer, and then you start speaking.
Okay.
The third section is more of a discussion, which revolves around the question that you have got on the cue card on section
Okay.
2.
Okay. So it's an elaboration of the cue card then.
Yeah, it won't even be an elaboration. They'll just ask you questions about this, and say, for example, if on the cue card you say, do you live in a nuclear family, whom do you live with, blah blah.
Okay.
So then in discussion 3,
Yeah.
in part 3, you will move into talking about probably why have old age homes increased nowadays, senior citizen homes,
Yes.
and it moves into that. So that's how it is. Very day-to-day activities and social discussions is what happens on the speaking.
So what is the best strategy you would say that students should have for speaking segment?
If you do not communicate in English, start doing that.
Yeah.
At least when you've decided to take up your English proficiency test.
Yeah.
Communicate in English, listen effectively. So one important thing is not only your speaking that's been tested here,
Yeah.
you're reading something, you're listening to what the examiner is telling you, and you will have to respond.
Yes.
So it's an integration of reading, listening, and speaking that's actually being tested.
Yeah.
So this is something that you will have to regularly practice and strategize.
So I think that's a very important part, that even if you are going for a speaking segment, the rest of the listening, writing, reading will come into play in any
Yes,
of the
yes.
segments. It's all interconnected.